On today's episode of the franchise, May 9th, we're going to be ranking the quarterbacks in the NFC. Last week, we did the AFC quarterback rankings. We did that one a tier list kind of style. We did 7 tiers of the quarterbacks in the AFC. For this one in the NFC, I'm just going to rank them 1 to 16, the best to the worst quarterbacks in the NFC. We're also going to talk about the Lakers and the Miami Heat gaining 3-win leads in their series in these NBA playoffs. And then that is going to do it for the episode. As always, before we get into it, franchise is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find the Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram in the description of the episode. All right, let's start here with the NBA playoffs. The New York Knicks taking on the Miami Heat in game number 4 of this series. Going into it, Miami has a 2-1 series lead. And Miami comes out of this game up 3-1 on the Knicks. The 8th seed Heat have a 3-1 series lead. They won this game 109-101, 8-point win for Miami. For New York, for the Knicks, 32 points from Jalen Brunson, 11 assists, 10 for 21 shooting, 10 for 11 on the free throw line. Julius Randle had 20 points, 9 rebounds. RJ Barrett had 24 points, 3 of 5 shooting from 3. But for Miami, 27 points from Jimmy Butler to go with his 10 assists. Bam Adebayo had 23 points, 13 rebounds. Max Strus, 16 points, 4 for 10 shooting from 3. Kyle Lowry had 15 off the bench. So the Heat have a 3-1 series lead. We've seen a few times, right, throughout NBA history where a 3-1 lead has been blown, has been lost, and the team down 3-1 has came back to win the series. But I don't see the avenue where the Knicks come out of this series and win 3 straight games to eliminate the Heat. I think Miami is a completely different team right now in the playoffs than they were throughout the entire regular season, right? This is a team that was a play-in team, did not have the great regular season, right? But especially from last season where they were the 1 seed in the in the Eastern Conference. But this season, right now, these playoffs, this Miami Heat team is a completely different team than they were a few weeks ago in the regular season. I mean, Jimmy Butler, as in the postseason, in these games where there are such high leverage and high stakes, he transcends into a completely different player. He becomes one of the most clutch, one of the most big time performers in like NBA history. This guy is he is out there and he is capable of getting a bucket when it matters most. If his team needs a bucket late in the fourth quarter, late in the shot clock, Jimmy Butler is going to be able to get a bucket for the Miami Heat. And I like the supporting cast around him. Look, they're without Tyler Hero. They are missing him, but they still have Max Strus, who's been a great 3-point shooter. Bam, great playmaker, big, able to get boards down low. Kyle Lowry off the bench has been surprisingly very good this series after a very disappointing regular season. Kevin Love is shooting very well from beyond the arc. So this Miami team is really, really good. And they're obviously coached by Eric Spoelstra, one of the best coaches in the NBA with a lot of championship experience. But this was not a blowout game compared to game number 3 where the Knicks only scored 86 points. I mean, the Knicks lost by 8 points here, and they played great. Jalen Brunson had 32 points in this game, like I said. He's been phenomenal throughout the regular season and in this postseason series. Just the thing for the Knicks for me is outside of Brunson, Julius Randle at times, and RJ Barrett, you're not really getting production from, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly. I mean, Josh Hart has been productive at times, but in this game, he wasn't really existent on the offensive end. So Miami's up 3-1. I expect them to win this series, whether it is in 5 or in 6 games. It will happen. I don't think the Knicks have a shot to win this series. And if that comes back to bite me and the Knicks come out and take and they win this series, I'll have to own that. But I think the Miami Heat are just a better team. And right now, in my opinion, I think they're the favorite to go to the NBA Finals out of the Eastern Conference. I really do. When you look at the potential teams that they could be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's either Philadelphia or Boston. And you look at both of those teams, they have a lot of pros and they have a lot of cons. For Boston, I mean, Jason Tatum has been very inconsistent this postseason from the offensive standpoint. But when he's on and when Jaylen Brown is on, to go well with those pieces of Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Derek White, that's a very hard team to beat. For Philadelphia, I mean, James Harden in this second round series has had 2 40-point games. He's been absolutely incredible in those games and has been dominant. They have Joel Embiid, excuse me, who just won who's the reigning NBA MVP. He's absolutely been an incredible player throughout this postseason. So when those two are hot and they're going, it's going to be hard to beat them. But sometimes James Harden does not have a productive game offensively, and you're trying to ask Tobias Harris or Tyrese Maxey to carry the load. But for Philly, they do have a lot of depth outside of Harden and Embiid. I mean, like I just said, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, they got Melton off the bench. They have a lot of guys on that bench that are able to score and to defend. So those are the two teams that Miami's going to end up playing if they make the Eastern Conference Finals. But I do like Miami right now. I think they are the favorite, in my opinion, to come out of the East, and they are the 8th seed. I just think Jimmy Butler, maybe we'll have to do this, once we get to the conference finals of ranking the players left in the postseason, because Jimmy Butler might be a top 3 player left in these NBA playoffs right now. He's been absolutely dominant. All right, the Warriors-Lakers. Lakers take a 3-1 series lead on the defending champion Golden State Warriors, winning this game by 3 points, 104-101. Steph Curry had a great game, 31 points, 14 assists, shot 3 for 14 from 3, 12 from 30 from the field goal range. Andrew Wiggins had 17 points. Gary Payton had 15. Clay with a horrible performance, only putting up 9 points in this game. For the Lakers, Anthony Davis, 23 points, 15 rebounds, 10 for 16 shooting. LeBron with 27 points and 9 boards. Austin Reeves had 21 points. But I think the story of the game for both of these teams, and in particular for the Lakers, is Lonnie Walker. 15 points off of the bench. All of those came in the fourth quarter. Lonnie Walker was not really getting any rotational minutes this postseason. It's a lot of dead time, whether it's a blowout win or a blowout loss. That's kind of where you would see him in. He was a starter at the beginning of the regular season, got injured, didn't really play a whole lot, and then he comes in here in this pivotal game 4 where the Lakers are trying to go up 3-1, trying not to have the series be tied. Need big time scoring from someone else outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis, and Lonnie Walker comes in and plays absolutely amazing. I mean, this is the true prime example of always having to be ready as one of these bench role players. I mean, Lonnie Walker was not getting much rotational play in this series and in this postseason, and and he was ready for this. He was ready to come out here and score 15 points all in the fourth quarter. Is absolutely amazing. For the Warriors, they had many opportunities to win this game late in that fourth quarter. I'm talking under 30 seconds, right? Steph Curry shoots a 3 on Anthony Davis, misses it. They get a rebound back out to Steph Curry. Anthony Davis is on him again. There's still enough time on the shot clock to get a better shot off, and Steph just chucks up a 3 and misses it. And then you have them getting a rebound, go for a jump ball, and then the Warriors retain the jump ball. Steph gets it. He falls to the ground and he just throws it up, goes out of bounds, and then the Lakers end up winning the game. If they played that crunch time, minutes left, I mean, you're talking less than 30 seconds, less than 5 seconds left in the game for the Warriors they're down by 3. A 3-pointer ties the game. That's all the Warriors needed. And with that 3-point shooting of Steph, of Gary Payton, of Dante DiVincenzo, Jordan Poole, any of those guys are capable of hitting big time shots if you just inbound the ball and have some sort of play, some sort of game plan coming into this inbound. It might be a completely different story. Instead, the Warriors, they don't have a timeout. They don't know what they're doing. They're careless with the basketball, and the Lakers come out here and win and take a 3-1 series lead. And I mean, I said the same thing I said with the Heat. I think the Lakers will win this series, whether it is in 5 games or it is in 6. I don't see the Warriors coming back from 3-1. All right. Let's get to ranking the NFC quarterbacks. So when we did the AFC quarterbacks, we did tier list style. We did 7 tiers of quarterbacks. I'm gonna rank the NFC ones. I'm just gonna do them 1 to 16, worst to best. Um, NFC quarterbacks. Now, real quick, I put Bryce Young at 17 because Andy Dalton technically is going to be the starter for the Carolina Panthers. Now, I know for a team like the 49ers, the starter is really up in the air. Is it Trey Lance? Is it Sam Darnold? Is it Brock Purdy? Um, I put Trey Lance on the same level right now as Bryce Young. That's number 17. That is unproven. We have not seen that guy play. We have not seen Bryce Young play in the NFL, so he's not better than any guy currently in the league. And then for Trey Lance, he's literally only played like 3 games in his entire career. So we have no clue what kind of player Trey Lance is going to be. We have seen as little of a sample size as you could possibly get with a player. I mean, looking at Trey Lance's numbers right now throughout his NFL career, he's only thrown 102 passes for 797 yards and 5 touchdowns. So we have no idea what Trey Lance is in the NFL. So Bryce Young, Trey Lance are on the same tier. Let's start from the top. Sorry. Actually, we're going to start from the bottom. Number 16, the worst quarterback in the NFC is Sam Howell of the Washington Commanders. And that's simply because this guy sample size is 1 game, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in his career, 57% completion percentage for Sam Howell. We have no idea what this guy is going to be. He is going to be the Commanders' he's most likely going to be their starting quarterback. I know they brought in Jacoby Brissett in the offseason, who's a really great player. But he's most likely going to be their backup. I think when you look at Sam Howell and especially what the Commanders did this offseason, a lot of quarterbacks in the draft. Lamar Jackson was a free agent, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, all those quarterbacks were out there to be acquired. And the Commanders basically stood put and said, hey, Sam Howell is going to be our guy for 2023, and we're going to see what we have in him. So he's going to be their guy this season. We'll see what we get out of him. And it's just not enough sample size to really rank him accurately right now. And that's why I have him at number 16. At 15 is Desmond Ridder of the Falcons. And it's really the same thing for him, right? Ridder's played more games. I think he played 3 or 4 games last season, throwing for 708 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 63% completion rate. And it's the same thing with Howell, right? Ridder barely played last season. It was really Marcus Mariota's job for a majority of the year. Ridder plays the end of the season and does pretty solid. So he's going to be Atlanta's QB1 this season, right? They brought in Taylor Heineke, but he's not going to be the guy. You have to see what you have in Desmond Ridder, especially with all of the quarterbacks available this offseason. I mean, the Falcons had the opportunity, if they really wanted to go get a CJ Stroud, a Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, or a Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers. There was so many quarterbacks available, and they did exactly, what the Commanders did. They said, we're going to see what we have in Desmond Ridder. Maybe we have something here with this guy. So we'll see what he can be this season. And I think when in a few weeks, right, when the NFL schedule is announced, which actually is on Thursday, I believe, when the schedule is announced and as we get closer to the season, the Falcons, in my opinion, have the best roster in the NFC South division right now on the offense and defensive side of the ball. And the entire success of the Atlanta Falcons is solely going to rely on the shoulders of Desmond Ridder. And he's a very unproven quarterback. So he's either going to be able to take this team to the postseason or he's going to be the reason that they are out of the playoffs this season. But he is number 15 because of the small sample size. All right, number 14, I have Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's going to be their starting quarterback this season, most likely. I mean, they also have Kyle Trask on roster. Personally, if I was Tampa Bay, I would see what you have in Kyle Trask. You drafted him in the second round. Was it 2-3 seasons ago? Why don't you see what you have in this guy? He's barely played any NFL snaps. Baker Mayfield, geez, we kind of have an idea of what Baker Mayfield is at this point in his career, and that is not a good quarterback, right? He's shown flashes last season. He had a great game against the Raiders when he was on the Rams, but Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback at this point in his career. Why don't you see what you have in Kyle Trask? You drafted him in the second round. See what you have in this guy. But the Buccaneers most likely going to be starting the season with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. 2,100 yards last season, 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. We kind of know what Baker Mayfield is at this point in his career, and that is not a good quarterback. All right, number 13 is Andy Dalton. He's going to be the starter for the Carolina Panthers this season. He won't be playing the whole season, right? Bryce Young will take over at some point. But Andy Dalton actually had a really great season last year for New Orleans, 2,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, completing 66% of his passes. For Andy Dalton, right? He's going to be the QB1 for the Panthers to start the season. You looked at what he did. I mean, he's been doing this ever since he left Cincinnati. He's been a journeyman throughout his career, going to last season with New Orleans and the year before that, I believe, also with the Saints. When Jameis Winston got injured, he kind of took over the reins at quarterback. When Justin Fields got drafted his rookie season, that was Andy Dalton's job until Fields took over. So Dalton's going to do a great job, especially with this team, with the weapons that the Carolina Panthers have. Sorry, someone is texting me right now. But Andy Dalton, I think, is a very serviceable quarterback, right? I mean, I have him at, what is this, number 13? So he's in the bottom half of the NFC rankings. But if your team's throwing out there Andy Dalton, I think that means you have a better quarterback that you're trying to throw out there at some point in the season. So there is something positive to look at, but Andy Dalton's still not, a great quarterback. Number 12, this might be a little too high for this guy, and that's Jordan Love of the Packers, going to be the full-time quarterback this season for Green Bay. 606 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 60% of his passes were completed in his career. Those are his career stats. Desmond Ridder has had more yards, less touchdowns, higher completion percentage. I think he's taken more snaps than Jordan Love in his NFL career. This is a big season for Jordan Love, right? You're taking over for Aaron Rodgers, the greatest quarterback in franchise history and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. In my opinion, he's top 5. So Jordan Love, not a lot of NFL experience. You've barely played. This is your first full season. And because of his small sample size, that's why I have him so low. I mean, we'll see what this guy can become with his potential, with his arm, with his mobility. We'll see what we get this season from him, and that's why I have him at number 12. Number 11 is Justin Fields of the Bears. Somewhat of a breakout season for Justin Fields in 2022. Threw for 2,242 yards, 17 touchdowns, 11 picks, completed 60% of his passes. But his dominant force, his real breakout area was his legs. He rushed for 1,100 yards to go with his 8 touchdowns. He rushed for the most yards out of a quarterback in a single season in NFL history. So Justin Fields has a lot. I mean, the Bears this offseason made a lot of additions, right? They added the offensive lineman in the draft. I think it was Darnell Washington from Tennessee. You brought over DJ Moore when you traded the number 1 overall pick. You have Chase Claypool. You brought in some running backs. So Justin Fields, second year with his new head coach, I expect him to take a leap. And some of the guys in the Bears building have been saying that he is the best. He's in terms of his passing, this is the best he's ever been in his career. So you're looking at a potential season of Justin Fields having a big breakout year. And if he doesn't, and the Bears are bad and they have a top pick, I wouldn't be surprised if they take a quarterback and move on from Fields next season. But, I mean, look, this is a guy that they believe in because they had the number 1 overall pick. They could have drafted Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, but they chose Justin Fields. They believed in Justin Fields. And, I mean, we'll see what we get from this guy this season. All right, heading into the top 10 of these quarterbacks is Kirk Cousins at number 10. 4,500 yards last season, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 65% of his passes completed in Minnesota. I think he's about as middle tier of a quarterback as it gets. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Kirk Cousins every single season, right? You're going to get a good amount of yards. He's a very good game manager. He's not really, I mean, it's always been Kirk Cousins does not perform in primetime moments, and that's pretty much been the case, right? They had that playoff loss in the first round to the New York Giants, where I thought they would have won because I thought the Giants were frauds last season, but they proved me wrong and beat the Minnesota Vikings. But Kirk Cousins, I mean, he's going into the last year of his contract with the Vikings. I think they should move on from him after the season because you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. It's just not going to happen, right? He's not a transcending player. He's not a game-changing player. He's not going to be able to take over a game and put a team on his back when they really need him to do that. He's just a really great game manager. Number 9 on these NFC quarterback rankings is Daniel Jones of the Giants. 3,000 yards passing last season, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 67 completion percentage. And he rushed for 708 yards and 7 touchdowns. Got a big-time contract extension in the offseason. Pays him about $40 million a season. Daniel Jones, for me, first of all, I think that contract that the Giants gave him was a big-time overpay. But I understand why they had to do it because Daniel Jones just took you to the playoffs, right? You can't afford to lose a guy like this because who are you going to get who are you going to get to take over your quarterback position? Are you going to go out there and draft a rookie? What if the rookie's not good? What if the rookie's a bust? Are you going to sign Derek Carr? Are you going to sign Andy Dalton? Aaron Rodgers? Would he have gone to the Giants? Right. So I understand why they had to bring back Daniel Jones. I just don't think he's at the level of he's not at the level of quarterback that is going to be able to win you a Super Bowl. He's a great player, has great skills, but he's just not at the level of quarterback to take a team and really win a team a championship. Number 8 is the newest member of the New Orleans Saints at the quarterback position. That is Derek Carr. Last season was a very disappointing year for Carr, right? First year with his new head coach, though, I think that is a pretty valid excuse for Derek Carr. 3,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and had only a 60% completion rate for Derek Carr. But look, I think this guy is better than Kirk Cousins, better than Daniel Jones, but I still don't think Derek Carr is going to be a guy that's going to lead you to a Super Bowl. I think he's definitely capable of leading a team to a postseason. And I think if all goes right, he can win you a playoff game. But Derek Carr is not going to be a quarterback that's going to take you to the next level and to a Super Bowl. And with this Saints team, I don't think the Saints will be that great next season, right? Their offense is going to be pretty solid. Kamara, Carr, Olave, Michael Thomas, if he is healthy and does anything, Jarvis Landry. I just think there's better teams in that division. Derek Carr, in terms of just quarterback pure rankings, I still think is better than Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, right? Right now. But, that may change. You might have some of these guys move above him. And if Derek Carr has another bad season, right, I'm talking high interceptions, low completion rate, I think he's definitely going to start sliding off of this list. Where are we at? Number 7 is Brock Purdy. In his 9 games last season, taking over after the Jimmy Garoppolo injury, he threw for 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completed 67% of his passes, won every single game he started except for the NFC Championship game where obviously he tore his UCL. It's going to be interesting to see what the 49ers do this offseason with their at the start of the season with their quarterback position. You have Brock Purdy, right, who had an amazing 9 games, took you to the NFC Championship game, but is coming off of a UCL injury, and we kind of have to see where he is in terms of his throwing progress. Trey Lance has played very little, and he's played absolutely no games. In his career, he's attempted 102 passes in his career. So we have no idea what Trey Lance is, but he was the number 3 overall pick that you traded tons of assets for in the 2021 draft. And then you brought in Sam Darnold in the offseason. And that was an interesting move. You have 3 quarterbacks on roster right now. You brought in Sam Darnold. Is Sam Darnold going to start the season for the 49ers? Will it be Trey Lance? Is Brock Purdy going to be healthy enough? But in terms of these rankings, I think Purdy is better than Carr and Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins. I think he's better than everyone I just listed, right? He's taken a team to the NFC Championship. Now, yeah, he had great defense. He had great offensive pieces around him, a great head coach, great system. But you can't. I don't think you can put any quarterback on that team and they're going to have the same success. I don't think you can put Bryce Young. Or okay, you probably could put Bryce Young, but I don't think you put Andy Dalton. I don't think you put Baker Mayfield. I don't think you could put any of those guys on this team and have the same kind of success that Brock Purdy had. I think this guy's an absolute dog. He's a game changer, and he has a lot of things to like about him. He doesn't have, the greatest power arm in the game, but he's very accurate with the football, and he knows what he's doing. He's a great game manager, but he's capable of leading a team deep into the postseason. That's why I have him here at number 7. Number 6 is going to be Geno Smith. 4,200 yards last season, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, completing 69% of his passes in Seattle last year. This was, a great season for Geno Smith. Throughout his career, he has not been, this good. He's been a backup. He's been a third string. He's been a very bad quarterback throughout his career. But last season, first year as a starter in Seattle, and he plays absolutely amazing. He obviously got that contract extension. The only reason I don't have him higher up, now, I mean, he is number 6, and you could make the argument that he's better than 2 of the guys above him. But we just haven't, is this Geno Smith season replicable? Can he replicate this next season? Is he going to be the same player he was in 2022, or is he going to go back to what he was throughout the rest of his career, being a pretty bad quarterback? We have no idea what we're going to get from Geno Smith because it's only a 1-season sample size. If Geno Smith has this kind of season again in 2023, then I think you can kind of see that Geno Smith has changed his game and that he should be higher up, right? But we don't know what we're going to get from Geno Smith in 2023 because of what he's been for a majority of his career compared to the one great season he had last year. But he's still a great quarterback. I still think he's better than Purdy, than Carr, than every guy listed before him right now. Number 5, Kyler Murray. 11 games last season for the Cardinals. Obviously tore his ACL. He was at 2,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last season. But in 2021, had a great year as well. 3,787 yards for Kyler Murray, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, completing 69% of his passes. Kyler Murray gets a lot of hate, right? Not watching film, not being a mature leader in the locker room, stuff like that. But on the field, Kyler Murray is a great player, dual threat quarterback, able to sling the ball, able to run around, scramble. I mean, he had that game against the Raiders, I believe it was the fourth quarter or overtime last season, where he was scrambling for at least a minute and then ultimately got a touchdown and the Cardinals won that game. So Kyler Murray, he's going to miss a good majority of this season, still recovering from that ACL. But I still think I'd rather have him than Geno Smith. I think he gives you a better chance. I think with the right pieces around him, right head coach, right system, Kyler Murray, his potential is about as high as it could possibly get. I think his potential could reach, what we see out of Jalen Hurts. All right, top 4. Number 4 is Dak Prescott. This one might be very controversial because of the season that Dak had last year. But remember, he only played 12 games, missed some of the season with an injury. 2,800 yards last season, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 66 completion percentage. The trouble for Dak last season was the turnovers. Turned over the ball a lot in games. I mean, he had multiple games with multiple turnovers, especially in the postseason against the San Francisco 49ers. But I still think Dak Prescott is a great quarterback. I think he gives your team a chance to win. Now, I know he hasn't made it past the NFC divisional round yet as a quarterback and as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. But I do like his abilities, his skill set, and what he brings to a football team. So he is at number 4 for me. All right, and here is the top 3. Number 3 is Jared Goff. I really, really like Jared Goff. I think when he got traded from the Rams to the Lions, it was looked at as Jared Goff has a bad contract. He's a bad quarterback. He's overpaid, blah, blah, blah. But last season, and even a little bit in 2021, Jared Goff really showed, why he was the number 1 overall pick, why he helped bring the Rams to a Super Bowl. And I really do believe that if all goes well for the Lions, right, if everything goes perfect, Jared Goff is capable of taking a team to the Super Bowl, right? I know the Rams had a great defense in that year where they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but Jared Goff was the quarterback of that team, and he was not, bad by any means. He was absolutely stellar with the Rams to start his career, and I think last season he was great as well. He was 6th in the passing yards. He had 28 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, completed 65% of his passes. And you add another year with Dan Campbell, you add new weapons, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, another year of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think this Lions team, and especially with an improved defense, I think Jared Goff and this Lions team are destined to go to some pretty big places in 2023. Number 2 is Matthew Stafford. This one might be a little high based off of him only playing 9 games last season, 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a very bad start to Matthew Stafford's 2022 before he got injured. But 2021, where he won the Super Bowl with the Rams, I mean, he had 4,800 yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 67% of his passes were completed. He was absolutely amazing, right? He could have won league MVP. He took the Rams and helped them win a Super Bowl. And I think, look, he's going to be healthy this season. I don't think this Rams team is going to be good. I think they have a lot of holes on this roster. They don't have a lot of assets. But Matthew Stafford is still capable. I mean, we saw it with many years in Detroit. He had horrible football teams, and he was still a great player and was able to win that team some games. So I think this year with the Rams, a healthy Matthew Stafford, he's going to pick up right where he left off in terms of being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. And then number 1 is Jalen Hurts. I think this one's very obvious. 3,000 yards last season passing, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, had 760 rushing yards to go with his 13 touchdowns on the ground as well. Took the Eagles to a Super Bowl. Almost was finished second in MVP. Could have won an MVP last season. He was absolutely amazing. And in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, he was perfect. It was not his fault. He was not the reason that they lost that game. He was absolutely stellar in that Super Bowl performance. Got a big-time contract extension, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback for years and years to come. So the NFC is a lot weaker in terms of quarterback talent than the AFC. I think Jalen Hurts, if you were to put him in the AFC, let's see, where are my AFC quarterback rankings? If you were to put, where are my AFC? Okay, if you were to put Jalen Hurts in the AFC, I think he's the 4th best quarterback in that conference. I think Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen are all better than Jalen Hurts. So I think he's the 4th best quarterback in that conference, and that honestly might mean I have him as the 4th best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe not actually. But Jalen Hurts, best quarterback in the NFC. The NFC is a lot weaker in terms of quarterback talent, than the AFC. I mean, Dak Prescott is a tier 3, tier 4 quarterback if he's in the AFC. Geno Smith is a tier 4, tier 5 kind of quarterback in the AFC. So the NFC is a lot weaker. Jalen Hurts is at the top. Stafford, Goff, Dak, Kyler Murray round out the top 5. That's going to do it, though, for this episode of the franchise. Ranking the NFC quarterbacks, recapping those NBA playoff games. We'll be back on Wednesday with another episode of the franchise. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter in the description of the episode. And I'll see you guys later.